I have a Google document in front of me, and I figured that one of the easiest ways to be able to go through this is not slides or anything like that, but just to walk through what I've learned in having literally done hundreds of my own launches and have planned and helped clients on literally thousands of launches, right from them being six figures right up to multi eight-figure launches in so many different industries, and seeing the good, bad, and ugly of a launch, right? And so, first, I want to define what a launch is. Okay, so there's two different types of launches, right? So the first launch is what I'd say is a promotional launch, right? And that simply is I'm bringing more attention to something, right? So that is really, hey, I'm just talking about something, and I'm talking about it for a defined period of time, more than I would normally talk about it, right? And then the second would be is what I would say is a real product launch, right? And that means something that's brand new, right? You've never done it before. It's brand new. It's a brand new product or whatever it might be. And so, what, based upon which one this is going to radically change how you actually launch. And so that's the first part. The second part is to understand the mindset going into your launch, to understand because your mindset going into a launch is going to radically change the entire launch. And most people, when they go to a launch, there's implied anxiety. And as soon as there's implied anxiety, you're going to do a bunch of things you probably don't need to do. You're going to second guess yourself. You're going to have some perfectionism come in. Whatever mindsets, patterns you have, which is ironic because the manuscript of my next book called The Pattern, which is about mindset, is right in front of me. And whatever those patterns is pretty much going to depict what happens with launches. And so I do a lot of launches. I do two launches a month. It's just part of my business model. And people always ask, well, how do you do that? I'm like, each launch might take me 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours at the absolute maximum. And rarely do they make me less than six figures. Majority of them are anywhere from a quarter of a million to half a million each time I do a launch within the next 60 days of that launch. So for me to not do a launch, that's silly. And then the other aspect, if from a mindset perspective, is okay, if I know what patterns I have going into this, how can I make this as relaxed as possible? Not because I'm lazy, but because if I'm relaxed, I'm going to be able to come from a much better thinking place. Right. So we make the best decisions, it's proven. We make the best decisions when we do not have the inner tax of anxiety. And by starting out this entire scenario with that, we're able to create whatever launch it is in a much easier way. And of course, what also happens if you do that is let's say you write an email, or let's say you do something, you're probably not going to second guess it, right? You're going to be able to be in a place where you're like, yeah, you know what? That's 95% as good as it needs to be because everything doesn't have to be perfect. Certainly doesn't have to be perfect at all. All right. So as soon as I know which style I want to go with, then I can go to what the launch event. All right. So this could be a webinar, this could be a video series, this could be XYZ. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what it is. What is going to matter, however, I'm just going to change the size of this so I can see two things at once. Just one moment. There we go. What really matters is this going to resonate for your audience? And then are you going to enjoy it? And I always start with if you can enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy something, you're going to do a half ass job. You can only fake so much if you don't enjoy doing something, right? So if I'm going to go do a 5 day challenge and 2 hours a day, and it's going to be 10 hours throughout the week, here's what I know is going to happen. By the time the Saturday comes, by the time that my sales period starts, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm not going to want to talk to anybody. I don't want someone's money anymore. I just want to relax. I want to go into a room and not come out for $18. That doesn't do any good. So we want to be able to understand what are you going to be excited about? What are you naturally going to be excited about? Because now you don't have to force yourself into doing something. And so it has to resonate with your audience. Right. So if you're going to go to a bunch of, let's say, people that are very on the intellectual side, we're probably not going to do something that is on a deeply emotional side. Right. So I have clients that they do a 5 day meditation. I'm not going to go to my intellectual potential clients with a meditation as my launch because it's probably not going to do as well. Not always, but most of the time. But if I'm going to go to somebody and let's say you sell some type of program in personal development and you do, or let's say you're doing a training, you're a personal trainer and you have a personal training product and it's something that's going to work really well for you is like a 7 day boot camp, right? Each day, 10 minutes a day, and by the end of that 7 days, it's going to go really well. The problem, again, with making it so that it's a difficult launch is either overdoing something or trying to make it perfect, right? So, what's the launch event? And then our next question is who are we going to have as our audience? Is it your organic audience? Is your email audience? Is it your social audience, which of course both of these are inside of organic? Are you doing cold ads, right? Are you doing partnerships, sponsorships? You know, really what it comes down to here is this is where you're going to put pressure on yourself. All right. So if you go into a launch and you spend, I don't know, 10 grand on ads, you're going to have a lot of, and let's say 10 grand is a lot of money in your business, right? So let's say you're used to making 20 grand a month and you spend 10 grand on ads, which is a lot of money for you at 20K a month. You're going to have a lot of anxiety going to that launch. You're going to have a lot of like, oh my God, this is going to have to work. So my recommendation always is to build an audience and traffic strategy where if it doesn't work, quote unquote work, you're like, ah, sweet, let's just do it again. Let's do it a new way or whatever it might be. Or if you need to, do the same launch and just do it multiple times, right? Because if a launch, especially with AI, we'll get into how to use AI with this in a minute. There's some ideas, the ways I do it. But if you do this right, you can go do a launch and go to your warm audience. And then 2 weeks later, go to a completely cold audience with slight variations using the money that you got from the first one to be able to fuel the next one. Okay. And so, and if you do that, now you don't have anything to lose. And what happens when you don't have anything to lose? You feel relaxation. And when you're in relaxation, it's the easiest place to be in a feeling of abundance and a feeling of, you know what, this is going to be fun. This is exciting versus, oh my God, if this doesn't work, I lost all this money. And what does that mean about me? Right? The inner game of all this. That's the next part is audience. And then my question is going to be, right? Is this a warm only launch or is this a warm plus cold or is this primarily built on cold? Because again, your language pattern is going to change, right? If you have an audience of 100,000 people on Instagram or an email list of 20,000 people and they already know about you, who you are, what you do, well, the email is going to change, the landing page copy is going to change, like all these things are going to change. And so understanding where it's going to go and what it's optimized for, very important at the beginning. Because if you go to, let's say I go to my email audience and I have a pretty large email audience and my entire funnel is built to assume that nobody knows who I am and doesn't understand that I've scaled hundreds of businesses past 7 figures and I've literally influenced billions of dollars of revenue and been doing this for well over a decade and have all the context of who Scott Oldford is. It's going to be weird going inside of that funnel. Your warm audience is going to feel like an outsider. You don't want to do that. On the opposite side, even worse, if you have a launch and the entire thing's framed that assumes that somebody knows who you are, well, now somebody's going to come in and they have no context. They have no idea of like the positioning of, well, how does this person help me and why am I spending my time and so on. And so we're going a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. Then from there, we now go and say, okay, how much time do we need to spend upfront, right? Getting traffic and so on and so forth. What's actually possible for signups and what type of plan, what plan works that reduces my risk of not failure, but risk of like, oh my goodness, the tiger is chasing me, right? The tiger moment. Right. And now we start saying, okay, let's instead of making it this a big thing, let's make it no big deal.
If you want to watch the entire episode, click here. And if you want to watch more episodes like this, click here.